Let me ask you to picture something with me for a moment. Suppose each day you wake up to a clean canvas and the brush is already in your hand. That brush is your decisions. Now here's what you must understand. The picture you end up with won't be an accident. You and I will paint it one choice at a time. Every day, if we're wise, is a chance to make things a little better, sharpen your ability, straighten out your thinking, and quietly raise the standard of your life. But it doesn't drift upward on its own. We must take a careful look at this. Progress is always arranged. It is planned. It is earned. One of the greatest truths I ever learned is simple. Success isn't some mysterious event. It's a handful of small disciplines practiced consistently. And failure? It's the same idea turned the other way. Just a few poor decisions, repeated until they start to look normal. The gap between a life that works and a life that disappoints is usually found in the little things, the small improvements you choose to make day after day. It's rarely the giant overhaul that changes your future. It's the tiny corrections we're tempted to ignore that eventually make all the difference. I've narrowed it down to about 10 areas you should work on every day. We'll move through them briskly so we can get to the goal workshop. Number 1, improve your attitude. Your attitude is powerful beyond measure. It's the ground you stand on. It's the lens you look through. And if you strengthen it just a little each day, you'll be amazed at how much of your day begins to change. You might say, well, it's only an attitude. It's just how I feel. No, it's more than a mood. It's how you interpret what happens. It's how you meet trouble. It's how you treat people. And it works like a magnet. Your attitude will either draw opportunity closer or it will quietly push it away. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who complains no matter how good things are? Everything is wrong. Everything is unfair. Everything is somebody else's fault. How much prosperity do they attract with that spirit? Not much. That kind of attitude builds a wall, and opportunities don't usually climb walls. But the person who carries a healthier outlook, more hopeful, more patient, more solution-minded, tends to pull good things toward them. People want to be around them. They want to cooperate. They want to contribute. They want to see them win. So work on it just a little each day. Maybe you practice being a touch more optimistic. Maybe you work on staying calm when things don't go your way. And you'll notice something interesting. Doors begin to open that you didn't even know existed. Now understand this too. Attitude doesn't get repaired overnight. It's a slow construction project, brick by brick, day by day. Today you lean a little more into gratitude. Tomorrow you practice resilience. The next day you train yourself to look for answers instead of camping on the problem. Each day you lay one small piece of foundation, and before long you've built something solid. And I'm telling you, when your attitude rises, everything connected to you starts to rise. Your relationships, your work, your health, all of it. Next, you must improve your communication every day. This one is enormous. Why? Because life is built on communication, friendship, family, business, leadership, influence. If you can communicate better, you can build better relationships, run things better, and carry more weight in your world. But let me tell you something important. Communication isn't just talking. In fact, some of the most effective communicators don't say that much. They listen. They listen with patience. They listen to understand. Good communication is a two-way exchange, speaking with clarity and receiving with care. And you can sharpen this daily. Today, you practice listening without interrupting. Tomorrow, you work on stating your point without harshness. The next day, you practice finding the right words for what you truly mean. Little by little, you smooth out the rough edges and you become the kind of person others trust enough to listen to. And here's the payoff. When you communicate better, you influence better. You lead better. You help people think better. Now, haven't you ever had a misunderstanding that started small? Someone heard something one way, you meant it another, and suddenly you've got a bigger mess than you expected? Imagine how many of those you could avoid if you improved your communication just a little each day. How many conflicts could you settle sooner? How much trust could you build? That's worth your attention. Next, you must improve your self-discipline every day. This is where discipline begins, right here. Self-discipline is the bridge between your intentions and your results. It's doing what needs to be done when it would be easier not to. It's staying with the plan when comfort begs you to quit. And here's the truth. Without self-discipline, success remains a nice idea. You can have goals, talent, and big dreams, but if you don't have the discipline to follow through, none of it gets delivered. Discipline is like a muscle. You exercise it, it strengthens. You neglect it, it weakens. And you can train it in small ways daily. Today, you get up 15 minutes earlier. Tomorrow, you move your body even when you're not in the mood. The next day, you stay with your work and refuse distraction. Those actions may look minor, but compounded over time, they turn into major results. And remember this, self-discipline isn't only willpower. It's learning to set up habits that make the right thing easier to do. When you turn a worthwhile action into a routine, you stop needing so much inner wrestling to do it. The behavior begins to carry itself. So if you want stronger self-discipline, don't just demand more willpower. Set up patterns that make progress almost automatic. Make a simple daily practice like reading 10 pages of something valuable, and you'll notice the difference. The habit becomes the engine, and discipline doesn't feel so heavy. I once watched a young man with gifts you couldn't teach. Bright, capable, full of promise, but he had a habit that kept breaking his future into pieces. He would launch into a project with excitement, then abandon it the moment a newer idea appeared. He wasn't lacking talent, he was lacking follow-through. And because he kept exchanging completion for novelty, he stayed busy and went nowhere. I finally sat him down and said, "You must train yourself to finish. Stay with it when it's tough. Stay with it when it's tedious. Stay with it when you'd rather do anything else." He listened. He began with small victories, one task completed, one commitment honored, and those small wins built a new identity. In time, he could handle bigger assignments, and today he's doing exceptionally well. If you ask him what changed everything, he won't say luck, he'll say discipline. Now let's talk about another quiet thief of progress, the beliefs we accept without questioning. Here's what you must understand. Many people aren't limited by the outside world as much as they're limited by the story they keep repeating inside. I'm not the type. I could never do that. It's too late for me. Most of that is not truth, it's old programming. And since it's learned, it can be unlearned. So practice new language each day. Replace "I can't" with "I'm becoming capable." Replace "it won't work" with "I'll find a way to make it work." A small upgrade in thinking repeated daily becomes a completely different life over time. I knew a man who was trapped in his own negative focus. Every problem looked permanent, every setback looked fatal, and every delay felt like proof that life was against him. And with that kind of thinking, even good opportunities look like threats. I sat with him one day and said, "You've got to redirect your mind. Stop studying what's wrong so much and start training yourself to look for what can be done." He took it seriously, but he didn't try to change everything at once. He started with small daily inputs, reading something encouraging in the morning, listing what he was grateful for at night, and forcing himself to ask, "What's the next solution?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" Over time, his inner world changed and his outer results followed. More confidence, more stamina, more success. It began with a daily decision to think better. Next is time management, and we have to be honest about this one. Time is the great equalizer. Rich or poor, skilled or unskilled, we all receive the same daily allotment. The difference is what we do with it. Time is irreplaceable. Once it's spent, it's gone. So if you want a life that produces, you must learn to direct your time instead of letting it leak away. And you can improve this skill a little each day. Set clearer priorities, reduce interruptions, and practice turning down what doesn't fit your objectives. Small improvements in how you use time create huge gains in what you can accomplish. Let me ask you a tough question. How often are you active but not effective? How often does the day fill up, yet the meaningful work gets postponed? Activity can be a disguise for avoidance. Productivity is different. It's doing what matters. Managing time means choosing the right actions, not just doing more actions. A practical starting point is to design your day before it designs you. Spend a few minutes early on deciding what must be done and what can wait. What are the key results you want by day's end? What can you delegate? What can you remove entirely? And remember, if you plan only work and never renewal, you'll eventually pay for it. Rest is not a reward, it's a requirement. Manage your time in a way that includes recovery so you can stay strong and consistent. Over the years, I've heard people say, "I just don't have enough time." And I would tell them, you have the same amount as everybody else. The issue isn't the supply, it's the stewardship. So if you want things to improve, begin by using your time with more intention. Practice it daily, and you'll feel your life gain order, clarity, and momentum. Next, you must expand your knowledge every day. Let me tell you something important. Your income and your opportunities tend to grow in direct proportion to the value you can offer. And value comes from what you know and what you can do with what you know. If you stop learning, you don't stay still, you fall behind. So make learning a daily habit. Read, listen, study, and observe. Today, pick up something that sharpens your skill. Tomorrow, take in something that strengthens your character and thinking. Then the next day, you enroll in something that stretches your ability and sharpens your craft. Every small deposit into your mind gathers interest. After a while, you notice you're not only better informed, you're better equipped, more capable, more confident, more ready for whatever comes. And let me tell you something important. Education doesn't end when you walk out of a classroom. In many ways, that's where the serious learning starts. Formal schooling can help you earn a living, but self-education can build a fortune. The people who do well for a long time are students for a lifetime. They keep adding to what they know because they understand a simple law. When you learn more, you can do more, and when you can do more, you can earn more. My teacher, Mr. Schoaf, was among the brightest men I ever had the privilege to know. And it wasn't luck that made him sharp, it was devotion to learning. Daily, steady, intentional. He said to me once, "Jim, the more you learn, the more you earn." I believed him. I started reading everything I could get my hands on, listening whenever I could, showing up to seminars, collecting ideas the way a farmer collects seed. And he was right. Opportunity has a way of finding the person who is prepared. The same can happen for you. Next, there's never a smart day to ignore your money. Your finances are not something that merely happens to you. They are something you arrange. And like your attitude or your health, they respond to daily care. Whether you're working to climb out of debt, build wealth, or simply create stability, it begins with small, consistent improvements. Here's the truth. Most people understand how to earn money, but they never learn how to manage it. And that's why some folks struggle at every income level. But the good news is, money can be learned, one decision at a time. Today you track where it's going so it stops slipping through the cracks. Tomorrow you set a simple plan for spending so you stay within your means. The next day you set aside a small portion for savings or investment. None of those steps looks dramatic, but together they change the direction of your financial life. And remember this, it's not only what you make, it's what you keep. Some people bring in a large income and spend it as fast as it arrives, living on the edge and calling it normal. Others earn less, yet they build security and wealth because they practice a few basic principles. Those principles aren't reserved for experts. They're available to anyone willing to be consistent. One of the soundest pieces of financial counsel I ever heard was simple. Live on less than you earn and put the difference to work. It may sound ordinary, but it is powerful. If you practice that idea faithfully, your future starts to firm up. But here's the key. It takes discipline. It takes patience. It takes the strength to postpone a small pleasure now so you can purchase freedom later. And that strength can be developed daily by making wiser choices, by managing carefully, by investing in your future instead of merely spending in the present. Have you ever looked at your bank statement and thought, how did it disappear so fast? That's not a reason for guilt. It's a signal. It's a sign to improve your money habits and take the steering wheel back, and it won't require a miracle, just small, steady upgrades. Next is personal development. Here's the key. Life responds to growth. If you're not growing, you're not standing still. You're sliding backward. So each day, work on becoming a little better than you were. It isn't about being flawless. It's about making progress. It's the steady effort to improve how you think, how you act, and how you live. Personal development is a lifelong assignment, and it deserves a place on your daily schedule. Maybe today you become more aware. Pay attention to your habits, your strengths, your weaknesses, and your patterns. Tomorrow you develop a skill that makes you more valuable at work or more capable at home. The next day you practice managing your emotions and improving how you relate to people. Those small refinements repeated eventually produce a remarkable person. One of the best tools for personal development is setting goals. Clear goals that require you to stretch. But we must take a careful look at this. Your goals should fit your values. They should match what matters to you, what you care about, and what you're here to do. It's not only about getting more, it's about becoming more, the kind of person who can handle what you're asking for, and you can work on that every day. Today, you set a goal to read a chapter that feeds your mind. Tomorrow, you practice a new habit for a few minutes and prove to yourself you can be consistent. The next day, you review your progress and make adjustments, because a wise person doesn't just set a course, they stay awake at the wheel. And understand this as well. Personal development isn't only learning new things. Sometimes growth requires letting go. You may have to release an old habit, an old belief, or an old way of thinking that no longer serves you. That's why this is an ongoing process. Continual learning, continual refining, continual improvement. The more you commit to it, the more every area of life begins to improve. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned is this. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you become. If you want success around you, you must build success within you through your habits, your thinking, and your daily actions. If you want better relationships, then here's what you must understand. You don't get them by wishing for them. You earn them by becoming the kind of person people can trust, respect, and enjoy. And if you want greater abundance, you don't start with your bank account, you start with your thinking. An abundant life grows out of an abundant mind. That's why the daily work matters, because each day you can become a little more disciplined, a little more focused, a little more hopeful, and a little more capable. Next is purpose, and this one is priceless. Purpose is the compass. It gives your days direction and your struggles meaning. It's the reason you get up, and it's the reason you keep going when it would be easier to quit. But you must work on it daily, clarify it, strengthen it, and let it shape the way you live. Some people say, Jim, I don't know my purpose. And that's not a sin. That's just the starting point. Purpose is rarely delivered in one lightning bolt. It's usually uncovered through reflection and developed through action, so improve it a little each day. Today you sit quietly and ask yourself what matters most. Tomorrow you take one small step toward what you've been dreaming about. The next day, you bring your actions into alignment with your values. Do that consistently, and you'll notice something. The fog begins to lift. Purpose becomes clearer, stronger, and far more satisfying. And here's the remarkable part. When you live on purpose, many other things begin to line up. Your work carries more meaning. Your relationships gain depth. Your challenges stop being merely interruptions and start becoming training. Purpose is the foundation of a fulfilling life, and you can lay that foundation one day at a time. I once met a man who seemed to have it all. Money, recognition, the outer symbols of success, and yet he was miserable. He couldn't explain it. So we talked, and I asked him, "What's the reason? What's the why behind all this running?" He didn't have an answer. He had chased achievement so hard that he forgot what it was supposed to serve. I told him, "You've got to settle the purpose question, and you've got to live it daily." He took it to heart. He began focusing on what mattered most to him, contributing, helping, making his life count for something beyond himself. And his whole world changed. He found a peace and fulfillment he'd never purchased with money. And it started with a daily commitment to live with purpose. Next, one of the most valuable practices you can build is gratitude. Gratitude is not soft. It's powerful. It has a way of changing your inner climate. When you train yourself to notice what's good, you stop being dominated by what's missing. And when your focus shifts, your experience of life shifts with it. Gratitude is a daily exercise, and it doesn't require anything complicated. Today, you appreciate the people who stand with you. Tomorrow, you notice the ordinary blessings that are easy to overlook: your health, your home, your chance to work, your chance to learn. The next day, you even find value in the tough moments because they've stretched you, taught you, and strengthened you. That's when your mindset begins to move from scarcity to abundance, and over time, your whole outlook changes. Tell me, haven't you had days when everything seemed to go wrong? We all have. But here's a mature secret. Even those days contain something valuable. Maybe it's a lesson you needed. Maybe it's patience being developed. Maybe it's strength being forged. When you practice gratitude, even difficulty becomes useful, and that's where the real power is. Gratitude also multiplies. The more you look for reasons to be thankful, the more reasons you start to see. It gains momentum, like something that grows simply because you keep it moving. And as gratitude becomes a way of life, you begin to create a better cycle. More joy, more contentment, more generosity, more peace. And let me tell you something important. Gratitude isn't only a feeling. It becomes a way of behaving. When you truly appreciate something, you naturally want to give back. You want to contribute. You want to help. It softens you in the best way, makes you more patient, more kind, more understanding. And as you appreciate what you have, you start letting go of that fearful sense of not enough. When fear loosens its grip, abundance has room to grow. Gratitude is like a muscle. You strengthen it with daily use. Each day, pause and name something you appreciate. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Today, it might be the light outside your window. Tomorrow, it might be a meal on your table. The next day, it might be what you learned through hardship. The secret isn't the size of what you notice. The secret is training yourself to notice it all. Now, being grateful does not mean pretending you don't have problems. It doesn't mean you walk around pretending everything is wonderful when it isn't. Life will hand you some heavy days. But here's what you must understand. Gratitude gives you backbone. It helps you face what's difficult without letting it flatten you. You learn to say, yes, this is tough, and I'm still thankful I have the strength to meet it. Gratitude turns your attention away from what's broken and back toward what's still good, and that shift gives you energy, courage, and the right perspective to keep moving. I knew a woman who was going through an exceptionally hard season. She'd lost her job, her relationship had come apart, and she felt like she didn't know which way was up. Each day felt like a fight just to get through. We sat down and I said, "You've got to locate something to appreciate, even in the middle of this storm." At first, she told me it couldn't be done. So I said, "Then start where you can." She began writing down one thing each day, one small reason to be thankful, even if it seemed insignificant. And slowly, day by day, her eyes changed. She started noticing possibilities where she used to see only walls. She began rebuilding her life, and today she's happier and doing better than she ever imagined. If you ask her where it began, she'll tell you it began with gratitude. Now let me add one more thought about gratitude. It spreads. When you live with appreciation, the people around you feel it. Your spirit lifts the room. Your generosity invites generosity. Your calm outlook gives others permission to rise above their own negativity. So when you practice gratitude daily, you're not only improving your own life, you're becoming a positive influence in the lives of others. And that is no small thing. So take a quiet look at your life right now. Consider the areas we've talked about: your attitude, your communication, your discipline, your relationships, your thinking, your use of time, your finances, your personal growth, your purpose, and your gratitude. Which of these could be strengthened by just a small improvement each day? And what would your future look like if you made those improvements a daily practice? Because here's the real secret. Lasting change rarely comes from one dramatic leap. It comes from small actions done consistently. That's where transformation lives. I've watched it for years. People who commit to getting a little better, who stay faithful to the process instead of becoming impatient about the prize, end up doing extraordinary things. Why? Because success is usually the predictable result of simple disciplines practiced long enough. So let me ask you plainly, what's one small improvement you can make today? Where can you begin applying these ideas right now? Maybe it's your finances. You examine your spending and make one sensible adjustment. Maybe it's your relationships. You reach out to someone and express sincere appreciation. Whatever it is, start today. Don't wait for ideal conditions. Don't wait for the calendar to give you permission. Begin with what you have, where you are, and decide to improve a little each day. And I want you to think about this. What's one small act of discipline you can practice today? What's one area where you can begin the daily upgrades? It doesn't have to be massive, it doesn't have to be flawless, but it must be consistent. Because given enough time, the small things compound, and one day you look up and realize you're standing in a place you never thought you could reach. And don't forget purpose. Purpose is what ties all these daily improvements together. It's the reason behind the routine. It's what gives meaning to discipline, depth to gratitude, and strength to motivation. But purpose isn't dropped in your lap fully formed. It's discovered, and it's developed. And just like everything else we've discussed, you can refine it daily. Today, you reflect on what matters most. Tomorrow, you bring your actions closer to your values. The next day, you look for a way to serve, to contribute, to make your life useful. Each small step moves you nearer to a life that feels right. I want you to remember this when you walk away. Life is a journey, not a trophy, and the journey is built out of daily steps. Each day offers you a chance to improve. Each day invites you to become a little better than yesterday. And when you commit to that, quietly, steadily, in every area that matters, you'll find something surprising. The journey itself becomes the reward. So what will you improve today? What small, steady action will you take that moves you closer to the life you want? Not a giant leap, one step, one discipline, one better choice, every day. And if you'll do that, you'll be amazed at what becomes possible over time. Because the secret isn't luck, and it isn't talent, and it isn't even brute effort by itself. The secret is the daily choices, the small disciplines, the consistent improvements. And those choices, my friend, are in your hands. Take hold of them. Keep going. Keep growing. And remember, success isn't something you chase down in the distance. It's something you attract by the person you become.